Today I want to cover the mouse, how the mouse works. There are actually four things that you can do with a mouse, okay, that we actually can control. One of them is you can ask the program as you drag the mouse, as you just move the mouse around, you say, where is the mouse on the screen? So in other words, you can actually ask the program, where is my mouse right now? You can ask the mouse, if you click it down, you can ask the mouse, where did I just click down? What XY location was I at when I did that? And if you lift the mouse up after you click, you can ask it, where did I just unclick it? That's another one. And the other thing you can ask is, if you push the mouse down and you start dragging, you can ask the mouse, where am I now, as you're dragging. So in other words, you can just move the mouse around. There's one way to ask it about where it is. If you're dragging, there's a different way of asking where it is. If you're clicking down, there's a different way of asking. And if you're clicking up, there's a different way of asking. In other words, any of these things are possible for you. What I'm leaving out today is the fact that there are two buttons on the mouse. Okay, you can click this one or that one. I'm not making a distinction between them, so this what we're doing now will work for both buttons. Okay, just to start off with. The first thing you have to worry about when you're clicking on an object, okay, is where is the object? Where is the object located? And where is the mouse being clicked down? So for example, if you click the mouse down and it says it clicked at 100 in the X direction, 100 in the Y direction, you know it clicked down in that spot. But supposing you have an object that you're trying to click on, and supposing that one's located at 50 and 50, so it's located over here, and you click on 100 and 100, well, the question is you aren't clicking on it, so you don't want it to affect the object. In other words, if you're going to grab a hold of an object, start moving it or something, you don't want to click on the screen over here and have the object start moving when you're not even pointed at it. So the first thing you have to ask when you're using the mouse is, when you press it down, is it close enough to the thing that you're concerned about to actually do something? Okay. In order to do that, there's a little bit of geometry to figure that out. So what I did was I made another one of these include files that will allow you to do it. What you can do is you can tell that file where the object is, you can tell it where the mouse is, and it will tell you the distance between them on the screen, the XY distance, or whatever it is between them. And once you get that distance, you can have your own measure. You can say, well, if it's within 50, that distance is within 50, then I assume we were clicking on it. Here's what I mean. Here's an object right here on the screen. Supposing it's a picture of something. And you want to do is you want to click down on it. When you click down on that picture, you want to do something. When I click on that picture, I want something to happen. Okay? Well, when you click down, your mouse, say you clicked over here. So your mouse is XY, is this position over here. But this guy's over here is X0, Y0. It's in a different place. See? So if you click down here, you're not really close enough to it. But if you click down right here, then you're grabbing the object and you're moving it around. You'll be able to do something with it. So the question you always have to ask is, where you click and where the object is, what's the distance between it? Okay, you want to be close enough so that you're actually hitting the object. So step number one is to say, how far is it between where I click and where the object is? Step number two is, once you get that distance, you say, is that distance what I expect to be the right distance? Does that make sense to you? Here's where the problem comes in. This right here is the center of the object, and this is actually its location. If you look at its left and its top, that's the object's location right here. But for example, if the object happens to be a ping file, all this stuff out here is all invisible. So basically all you have is this little thing in here, and you want to click on that. You don't want to click over here, and you don't want to click over here, you want to click right in that spot right there. So what you have to do, it becomes a little bit of a pain to do this, but here's what you have to do. You have to say, well, even though the object is officially at X0, Y0, the point that we're concerned about is this point right here. That's the middle of the object as far as you're concerned. So what you have to do when you have a picture of something that you're using for whatever it is, you have to find out what the dimensions of the picture are. So, for example, supposing it's got this height, and this is its XY, the size of the picture, exercise of the picture. Well, what you want to do is you want to say, I don't want to click close to X0, Y0. I want to click over close to x0 plus half of y, I'm sorry, x0 plus half of x, and y0 plus half of y. In other words, this is halfway down the picture, and this is halfway over the picture. So the spot you want really is this right here, is x0 plus delta x over 2, and comma y0 plus delta y over 2. It looks mathematical, but basically all you're simply saying is, I want to know the distance between this point and the point where my mouse is, not where this point my mouse is right here. So once you find this point, that distance, then you'll really know how close you are to the object. That makes sense to you? It's simply because the object's actual location is the upper left-hand side, which is not the middle of the object. You're trying to find the middle of the object to hit it. Okay. So I'm going to write the program, but this stuff's going to be in it, and I'm going to show you how to use it and how to get to it. It's not really very complicated, but if you find yourself pressing the mouse someplace in space and the object starts to move, you suddenly know that what you're doing is you're saying, well, I'm not picking the object. I'm not hitting it, but it's moving. So therefore, something's wrong with that distance right there. I'm not getting it into the object correctly. And that's what will happen. You'll notice when you click on the screen and try to move an object, it's going to immediately do something bad to you. So let me write a program, and then we can talk about how it works, how it actually does the job. The first program is called Find the Mouse. This is online. These are online too, by the way. They're in today's listing. Okay. So here, okay. Let's see what's going to happen here. We're going to have, here's what I'm going to do. This is a program that simply says, where is the mouse? And I think it prints something on the top. It says, basically what I want is, I got 2 lines of code here, but this one and this one. This one says X is here and Y is here, and the object, I think is a picture someplace. This is where I wrote. No, I didn't have any object. Okay, here's what this program has. It says, this is the X location of the mouse, this is the Y location of the mouse. And then what you do is you have your mouse, you move your mouse around, and as you move your mouse around, you're going to see X and Y are going to change. And if you move it up to here, it's going to be X 0, Y is going to be 0. If you move it down to there, it's going to be the maximum X of your screen and the maximum Y of your screen. So wherever the mouse is, wherever it's pointed, is going to show up in that spot. This is like the easy breezy program that says, where's the mouse? And you can, once you get that information, once you get those 2 pieces, X and Y location, then you actually know where the mouse is, then you can start to work with it. Okay, so this is the first program. You have to introduce a new thing here, and this one's a script. This is an include file you have to put in. Type equals quote, this is a text. JavaScript. This is just like one of the other programs we did with the speaking program. The source in this case equals mouse.js. There it is. So that one, what that does right there is it brings in the code necessary for the mouse to be located. So within this code, we have to do simple things to say, where's the mouse? If we didn't have that little include up there, we'd have to write the whole program. It's a lot of stuff, so we avoid it by doing that. So that right there has to be in your code to start with. Okay. Then, if I go over the body, let me put these 2 guys on the screen right here, and we can center it. It doesn't make any difference, but here we have the body. And I think I have to go through a routine to start it up. Yeah, here it is right here. I got to go to onload. Equals. It's called startup. I could also center. Like so. Move that. Text align center. All I'm simply doing there is saying at the beginning of the program, mouse.js has to be run. You have to run something to get it going. You have to prime it, okay? And that's what you do at the beginning of the program. It does that immediately. Just gets things ready for us. Question?
You forgot to put quotes after the text/JavaScript in the scripts.
Script?
No, up in the other.
Up here.
Text slash
Jane,
Java.
thank you. Good job. Good job. Okay, so there you have how it gets started. Nothing's done yet, but that's how it all gets off the ground. Okay, first thing is you should say just say the words x equals. That just puts them on the screen. Doesn't do anything else. X equals, and then you want to have an input statement. So we have an input. Input. That's where the X is going to go right there. And then type equals text. Text. There. The first one. The second one, which is this one right here, I should put a BR over here to get it down. BR. Line break. That means it will go here and then it'll go down to the next one. Up and then. Got to put the words in first. Say y equals. And then the next line, put the input. ID equals up to, and type equals text. Text. This. So that's the whole front page right there. It puts a couple of x equals and y equals, it writes them right on the screen, and then there's a couple of input boxes for you, which are really output. That's where the information is going to go. That's where the program's going to say, here's where the mouse is, as you move the mouse around. Okay. Now comes the question of how to do this thing. Well, I've got to write the program, so I'll write the script. Going. Then we have a function. Now here's where it gets fun. The thing is that there's no buttons over here. You're not calling anything. In other words, you're not going up there at all. What's going to happen is the mouse, when the mouse moves around, this mouse function is going to say, I want to tell you where the mouse is. So it has to have a place to go to tell you where the mouse is.
Shouldn't, in the body line, shouldn't it be style instead of script?
Style. Which the bottom? Where?
In the top line for body.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Hope you guys have erasers and pencils. By the end of the course, you can always tell if someone takes one of my courses because the pencil's still long, but the eraser's worn down to a nub from having to correct everything as I write on the board. Thank you. I'm glad you're alert. Okay, function. So what happens is this thing over here is actually watching your mouse, okay? And if you want to tell the mouse, tell me where you are when you move. If you want that, you have to write this function. Exactly these words. Mouse move, all one word. Mouse move. That's this function specific to that thing up there. It says when the mouse moves, it goes to that function. It'll come to that function. And when it's in that function, what you have available then is the x and the y location of the mouse. In other words, if it ever calls that function, you know where the mouse is. Because at this point, I do know where the mouse is, okay? So if I say this, if I simply say out1 dot value What that sends me, what that thing sends me is this right here. Mouse X3. It seems strange, but mouse X3, no, that's the X value of the mouse. That's the X location of the mouse. Exactly this thing right here. Exactly that. So in other words, when the mouse is in a location, this thing comes down to this function and gives you this piece of information right here. That tells you where is the X of the mouse right now. And if you want to know where the Y of the mouse is, 2, value, the Y of the mouse is mouse Y3, like that. End of story, end of script, end of head. And that's it. That's the whole program. Kind of simple, really. Okay, so let me repeat what happens now. In order for you to know where the mouse is, just as it moved, it doesn't have to be pressed or anything, it has to be moved around, no matter where it moves, okay? Whenever you move the mouse, this thing right here knows where the mouse is. So if you put this function in, it goes to this function and says, okay, I know where the mouse is, and here's where it is, right here and here, and it tells you. And all I'm doing is I'm simply putting it out into these two boxes here, as the mouse moves around. So the way this program works is you run the program, you stop moving your mouse around, and these two boxes have a bunch of numbers that keep changing as you move the mouse around. That's simple. Okay. Is there anything about that I miswrote, or did you look up, anybody write the program? Anybody write it here? If you run it, it will be absolutely sure this will be correct. If not, it is online. The programs, I say, you can't trust these things so much, but they are online. And it doesn't look exactly like this, but it's got slightly different. You know, I changed the size of the font up there because the standard font was too little, so I made it a little bit bigger so you can see it easier, that's all. And I might have put a phrase up above it saying move the mouse or something like that. But it's the same program. Okay, so that's the first one. Now remember, mouse X3 and mouse, that's mouse by the way, Y3, it's not moose. Mouse X3, mouse Y3, they have the location of the mouse as you just move the mouse around the screen. Okay. Now, you can also ask the program, where's the mouse when you click the button down? Now, instead of asking it where it is when you move, you can say, where is it when you click it down? All you have to change is this thing right here. Mouse down. It has to be exactly this though, mouse down. Right like that. And this thing right here has to be changed to a 1. And this one right here has to be changed to a 1. Like that. And that's that program. What that one will do is, you move the mouse, you won't see anything. But the minute you click it down, this thing finds this function, says, oh, you have a down function, so here's the information you want right here. Here's it you, and you can put it, you can print it out if you want, like we're doing. So this is how you tell the mouse to go down. And don't forget, it's X1, Y1 is the way it works. X1, Y1. It's not a very good one, but that's a 1 there. X1, Y1, okay? If you want to check where the mouse goes up, it seems like a strange thing, but sometimes you want to know where the mouse goes up, and we have programs that use that, so I'm going to tell you where that is. So basically, if you want to know where the mouse goes up, what you say is, right here, you say it's mouse up. And then down here, this changes to a 2, and this changes to a 2 right here. So now what happens is, no matter what you do, click down or drag or whatever you do, nothing will happen until you lift the mouse up. And when you lift it up, those two numbers are going to go to those boxes there, and you'll see where the mouse went up. So it's the same. You're now looking for that. The other one is the one that's most commonly used when you're dragging stuff around. It's mouse drag. You drag things around. So instead of having mouse move or mouse down or mouse up, you have mouse drag, which is the other one. It looks like this. And what happens is, as you drag the mouse along, every position that's in while you're dragging it will go to XD and YD. It's a little bit different than the others. So XD and YD contain where the mouse is dragging. So you press it down and start dragging it, you will see its locations as you drag. When you let up and stop moving, it won't do anything. If you click down and up, it won't do anything. Only when you drag will it tell you where it is. So there's the thing. So you can know where the mouse is moving, you can know where it's clicking down, you know where it's clicked up, or where you're dragging it someplace. And those things give you all the power you need actually to use the mouse for all kinds of stuff. Okay. Any questions about that program? Okay. If you write one, all you have to do is keep changing this and these, and then the program changes. You can write the new version of the thing. Okay. Now, supposing you want to grab a hold of something and move it around, that's where it gets tricky. Okay, I'll put it here. Sure, I've got them all. And naturally, it's okay. Give me a second here. I may have to go online and see. I can make up any word, but I want to be sure I use the same one I used online, so give me a second. I figure I can think of it. Maybe I'll think about it, write a program. What I did was, I wrote this last night and I threw it up there, but I wasn't sure. I just made up a quick word for it and I'm not sure what I've used anymore. So I'll think of that. Okay, this part's going to be the same. Okay, now here's what this program's going to do. This is a slightly different program. What I'm going to do here is, I'm going to put an object on the screen someplace, like right here. And what I'm going to do is, instead of saying, where am I? Like that. What I'm going to do is, you're going to grab this object with your mouse and drag it around. Move it to different places, let it go, drag it, grab it, and drag it, and move it to different places, okay? So this is actually the first kind of practical program that we're going to talk about. It's how to grab things and move them around. Kind of interesting, somebody last semester, what she did for her final project was she made a puzzle. It was really, really good. She had all these little parts, and basically by using this basic idea, she grabbed the parts and you could assemble the puzzle for the, it's like a color puzzle. It was very well done and kind of clever. But anyway, so you can see, you can use these things for a lot of things, but whatever your imagination comes up with. But they're very handy. I think this stuff is very handy for you, being able to control your mouse and grabbing stuff and everything. Which is really not normal stuff that you can do in HTML unless you have some kind of a, it's difficult to write it in HTML. In JavaScript, it's relatively easy to do. Okay, so all you're going to see on the screen is just going to be an object of some kind. There's nothing else there. Well, you are going to use the mouse, so you have to have this right here. And then you have to have another thing, which is just like this. It's like this script. Type. Text / JavaScript. Now, for you guys that have some math background, all Pythagoras simply is it's just the It's a Pythagorean formula. That's all it is. And it's based on XY coordinates. It's one that's used on a graph. So basically it says, if you're going to use the formula, what you want to do is you want to send it the location of some point here, and then you want to send the location of a second point here. You send these two coordinates and these two coordinates, and it will tell you the length between them. That's all it does. It tells you length in pixels between them. That's simple, okay? So it's kind of the thing that this has is just one formula. It hasn't got anything special on it. But I wanted to avoid having you to figure out how to do the formula, the math, and everything, so I just put it up there. Okay, next thing is the function is called mouse drag. Which I think we just talked about, right? That's it. Use your XD and YD, that's what you get from it. Mouse drag. So, hang on a second. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Erase that. This program is not right. I'm going to have to rewrite the things and go. See what we got. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I have to tell you the principle of the thing. What happens is, you have this object on the screen, and if you click down anywhere except close to the object, you don't get it. Because you have to be close to the object or it won't pick it up. In other words, if you press down here and drag, that object's not going to move. It'll only drag if you hit right close to the object and drag it. That's the reason why you need this thing right here, because you have to find out if when you click down, are you close enough to the object to actually grab a hold of it or not? That's the question. Okay, that's the first thing we have to worry about. The second thing we have to worry about is not only are we close enough to it, but when you're moving the mouse around, you're doing stuff, it isn't supposed to move the object. In other words, if you happen to pass over the object without pressing the button, and you kept moving, where the object gets stuck to it and stop moving, you don't want that to happen. You only want it to happen when you press the mouse down close to it. You've got to press it down close to it, and then you have the object. Okay? Let me tell you another problem that comes up. The question is, if you press the mouse down, you click it down, and you're close to the object, you grab it. But what if you clicked it down over here, and you kept it down, and you passed by the object? Would it glue onto it and grab a hold of it and take it away? These are the things that can happen if your program's not written quite correctly. So what we want to do is we want to isolate. We just want it to do exactly what we want it to do and nothing else. We have to, first of all, we must click down on the object, not anywhere else. And no matter if we drag by it or move by it or anything, it should have no effect on this object except while we are pressed down on it. That's the only thing. So here's what happens. The first question is when you click the mouse down, you have to say, am I close enough to the object to pick it up? And if I am, you have to set a switch. You have to set it so that from now on the program knows that you've got a hold of this object until you unclick it. Okay, so here's what happens. I'll explain it as we go along. So notice, as I move the mouse around here, nothing happens. Only when I click right close to it does something start to happen. It says, oh, you've got a hold of the object now. Okay, so what happens is, what I want to know is, let's say this function right here. And it's mouse down, like so. And what I do is, as soon as I click mouse down, I am going to ask the question, am I close enough to this object? Okay. So the first thing I have to do is, I have to know where the object is, because how else would I know how I'm close to it? So I'm going to set up this part of the thing right here, which is going to have the left and top. It's going to tell us where the object is. So these guys up here will know where the object is, so you'll know if you're clicking close to it or not. Okay, so what you say is that we have body here, and then we have this image right here. Image source equals what? Picture with a pix.jpg, whatever. It's just whatever picture you have, okay? And its ID equals thing. It's the thing we have, whatever it is. Give me the word thing, okay? Just off the top of my head. Okay, now what I have to do is I have to put that object in a place so I know where it is. So I'm going to put it, I'm going to say style. I want that object to be position absolute. That means it's going to be a specific spot. I want the left at 500 and the top at 500. Close. Like so. There it is. So what I'm saying is this thing is 500 out this way and it's 500 down that way. That's doesn't look like that, but that's where it should be. Okay. Does that make sense to you? That's right. Just put the object. That's where it's located. Now, the one thing I want you to remember is that when you talk about top and left, you're talking about the edges of the object. That's the edge of the object, and this is the edge of the object up here. If this thing was transparent, okay, and it was this big, if all the transparency was that big, this object would be down here, but the thing would be said to be 500. No, this would be 500, 500, because the middle is not at 500, 500. It's at 500 plus something, and down 500 plus something. Now, notice the middle of it is not where the actual object's located. You have to keep that in mind, because if we don't keep that in mind, you'll see what happens. You should do it without taking that into account. And you'll see when you press your mouse down, you press where it isn't, and it grabs it, because it's thinking you're going to go some distance from this point right here. So therefore, if you grab it anywhere in the space, like out here, for example, the object would get grabbed. You don't want it to do that. So you move the center. You say, I want to look, how far is the center from where I press the mouse? Then it will know that you're grabbing it at the center. Okay, so anyway, to make a long story short, this is where we're at this point. So the next thing is, I came to mouse down. Immediately what I have to do is, I have to find out, am I within the distance that I consider close enough to take the object away? Okay? So, what I do is, I say, okay, I'm going to create this variable called distance. I made this up. This is your own, I just created distance. And that's not the official name of the function I want. I can't remember the name. I can't remember what I called it, but something like, is anyone online now?
Proximity.
Is it approximate?
Proximity.
Proximity, gotcha. Makes sense. There we go, thank you. Proximity is the word. So I just threw it down. Okay, so here's what happens. I want to get the distance here that's between where I click that mouse and where the object is sitting, okay? Now, I know the object's sitting at 500, 500, but I better put a variable up here that says that so I'll know where it is. So I say I have a variable here called, we'll call it x position of the object equals 500. And then I can have a variable here, which is y position equals 500. So now I know that's the positions of the object right there. Okay. So now what I want to do is this proximity function, the way it works, and it's built into this Pythagoras right here. It's built into this. What it does is you put in the x and the y of one of the objects and the x and the y of the other object, and it will come back with how far there is between them. So in this case right here, what I know is this is a mouse down. So I know that x mouse x1, comma, mouse y1, that's the location of the mouse when you click it down because you came in on the mouse down. That's what it does. Now I know that, comma, and the location of the object is x pose, comma, y pose, like so. What I do is I send the position of the mouse and the current position of the object and send it up there. And it comes back and tells me how many pixels are there between these things. And you have to make the decision of whether that's close enough or not. In other words, if it's a big object, then 50 pixels would be within the object. If you pick 2 pixels, you'd have to be just in the right place to get it. So you have to just pick a number of pixels that makes kind of sense to you, so how big the object is, okay? Let's say we assume if they click within 50 pixels, we accept it. They're going to grab the object. If it's within 50 pixels, we'll grab the object, okay? So, what you do then, you say, well, if that distance is less than 50 pixels, then what we do is, we're going to set a new variable up here. This variable is going to be called up, down. No, let's call it something different. Hang on, let me see, give it a name here. Call it drag. Set it as 0. Here's what I'm doing. I'm setting this variable up in the beginning of the program. This is 0. If 0 means the mouse is not dragging anything. If I turn this into a 1, that means the mouse is dragging something. In other words, when the mouse is up, this is 0. But in this thing, when I just press that mouse and I'm within the distance of that object, now what I want to do is I want to tell the mouse, you are now down. So what I do is I change the value of this thing, drag, to 1. It's going to be something I'm just going to use to keep track of what's going on. So now what I do is I say drag equals 1, like so. And that's it. And then I finish this off. That's it. That's all it does. So you can see what this function does here. It only does one simple thing. If I press the mouse down, it looks to see how close I am to it, and if I'm close enough to it, it turns on this drag thing. Go ahead.
Is there a space between if and the parentheses for distance?
Is there a what?
Right after if? Is there a space right after if?
Right after F.
The if statement?
Right here?
No, at the bottom. IF?
If distance.
If.
Is there a space there?
Shut. What's wrong with that?
Is there a space there?
Oh, no, it's all solid. That's all solid, yeah. By the way, JavaScript is pretty forgiving. It actually, because so many people use it, they didn't. But the worry I always have with it is, where is it not forgiving? And that's the problem. So I just squeeze everything together. I don't take any chances, except when they, take any chances on anything. So there, that right there says all this thing is simply done. The program does nothing else, except when you press that mouse down, it's going to turn drag to 1. Now drag is now 1, okay? Now, next thing is, I have another function down here, and it's the function for mouse drag. This is where the action takes place. Okay? Now, the first thing I do is, I say immediately for mouse drag, well, I don't have to do anything. I can just simply say, hang on, let me think about this. Yes, I have to ask the question, is drag equal to 1? Now you say, well, of course it's equal to 1, because if the mouse is down, you're dragging. No, because if you drag somewhere else, not hitting the object, and you press the mouse down and drag, it is not dragging the object. So you don't want this thing to drag anything except the object that has actually gotten a hold of. Because if you have 5 objects on the screen, you just want to grab the one you've got and drag it. So you have to ask immediately, you have to say, well, if drag is, okay, how do we say this, is equal to 0, that means it's not dragging, right? Then what you do is you return. That's the magic word, return. What you're saying is, don't do this function because I don't have the mouse down in the right place. In other words, if I put the mouse down over here, drag is not going to be equal to 1. It's only going to be equal to 1 if I put the mouse down here. At that point, when you drag, you want to drag. So, step number 1, you say, okay, so I've reached, now what I've done is I've determined if I pass this and I don't get kicked out of the function, at this point right here, you know that that mouse has got a hold of the object, and wherever you drag, you want to move the object to that point. So here's what you say. Well, okay, so the new position, X position right here, is equal to, the X position is equal to wherever this mouse is dragged. So it's equal to mouse underscore XD. That's the new exposition, because drag tells you where the mouse is when it's being dragged. And then you say the new Y position of the object is equal to mouse YD semicolon, YD semicolon. And so at this point what happens is the mouse is, the XD and the YD have been moved to the new proper position. That's where the mouse is now located. It's where you're dragging. It's got a hold of this thing. Now what we have to do is, now that we have that changed, we have to tell these guys to change so that the mouse will go to the right place. Okay? In other words, at this point we've done the calculation. We haven't actually moved the mouse anywhere. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to add this little section over here. Right here. Okay. I'll add the code in here. So now what I want to do is, now that I know that's true and that's true, what I do is I say, well, this position right here, thing, dot style, dot left is equal to expose. So what happens now is the X position of this object on the screen now changes. It moves someplace. Then I say thing dot style dot top equals Y pose. There it is right there. So with these two things is, and it's over. It's over with that. So what happens is, I press down, it activates drag. It says, I've got a hold of the object. Come down here. Have I got a hold of the object? Yes, I do. So move the object right here to where the mouse is. Move this, the Y position, to where the mouse is. Now it's located where the mouse is located, because you've dragged it and the mouse is new, and it's new also. Then you tell the object itself actually to move into that position, wherever it is. So if I drag up this way, and my drag mouse grabs this right here, it's going to put this location into this guy. It's going to drag him up to there, into that position. And so what happens is, no matter where you drag around, it's going to keep going around with you. The problem with it is what about when you stop dragging? How does it know to let go of the object? You lift up. See, that's when you lift the mouse up. So you have a third function. That function does that. It says function. This is the last one. And when that's on the mouse up, when you let go of the object, right here, what you say is, well, I let go of the mouse, so set drag equal to 0. And then close it. That's it. That's all you have to do. You just simply shut off the drag. Now you know, once you let go, now when you move the mouse, the object doesn't go with you anymore. Okay? So it takes 3 functions to do it. One to press down to grab the mouse, another one to drag it around, and a third one to say, okay, let go of it. And that's really what you got. You got 3 functions here. And each one of them is called automatically for you. When you press the mouse down, this one's called automatically, and mouse down, it does it automatically. It says, oh, you got a mouse down, I'm going to do it for you. And when you drag, it goes to the drag thing and tells you where's the mouse right now. And when you let go on mouse up, that lets go for you, and you can shut the thing off. And then underneath here, you have to have a slash script and slash head. That's it. There it is. That's whoops. Let's finish off the program here. Okay, I think that's good. My writing's terrible. Hope you guys can't read. Let me know. I can't figure it out. And there it is. That's the program. What that'll do is yeah, go ahead.
The top part where it says script type for both of those.
Yeah.
Do you have to have end script at the end of both of those lines?
Slash with the both of those, yes. This here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that for both, because the reason why is because this is a statement of an opening of a script thing, then we want to shut it off. And this is an opening, and then we want to shut it off. These two guys are separate from the master script, which is this one right here. Wait a minute, did I miss something?
Yep.
Yes, I did. What did I miss? Anybody else knows it? I didn't turn on the script right, did I? I had it in the previous program, but I didn't have it in this one. There should be a statement right here, right in this spot right here. It says, script, language, was JavaScript. That's, and all of them we have that. There it is right there. Script. That's an R, believe it or not. That's awful writing, but there, you know that goes already. That's supposed to be here. These two guys here are just related to the includes, right? That other script is related. Go ahead, question.
So in the very distance proximity, is it equals x1 or
Right here?
underscore? Yeah.
This is mouse underscore x1,
Underscore.
that's the x position. This is mouse underscore y1, which is the y position. And x posts and y posts are what we set up originally right here. They keep track in our program of where the object is. Well, we tell it right here. We tell the object itself where to go based on what those guys are.
Do we have one too many squiggly brackets under if distance?
Let me check that. Okay, this one goes to here.
Oh,
This one goes to here.
oh, that's a closed bracket. I
Yeah,
see.
and this one goes.
No, it looks like an open one.
Yeah, right, sorry. Yeah, it's just left open, yeah, that one there.
The part where it says, if distance, do you need to have another, like a equal or less than there, or just a less than?
No, if the distance is less than, if you want it to be, you could be less than or equal to if you want to. In other words, if 50 is acceptable to you, then you can put an equal there too. So if the distance is equal to 50, it will do it. If it's less than 50, it'll do it. Whichever, I just said if it's less than 50, that's all. But you could have done this. This would work just as well. It would mean that if you hit the 50, if you were 50 pixels away, it would work also, instead of 49. So that's the only difference that would make right here. What do you think? Did you write that? Anybody write it? Did anybody do it? Okay. So that's how you actually do this. Now, I have a lot of programs up there on my site that I haven't opened up to yet, but one of them is, I've got a couple of blocks programs that are kind of funny. The thing is, they have the same principle as this. They use the same principle, except that they have a little different organization, because suppose you have 3 or 4 objects on the screen, okay, and you're moving them around. Like suppose, for example, I have this. I have this object into this object. And I start, grab this one, move it around, grab this one, move it around. Well, obviously, when you press the mouse down, you have to figure out, is it down on this guy, or is it down on that guy? You got a little different problem here going on. The one we did, we just simply said, if it's within 50 positions of the only object we have, it was easy. But when you have 2 or 3 or 4 objects, now you have to start saying which object is it closest to. That's a little bit different proposition. So you have to, when the mouse goes down, you have to say, well, how close is it to this object? And if it's close enough to that object, you have to set a drag, but you have to set a drag for that object. You have to give it a slightly different variable. You have to say drag object 1 or something. The other one would be drag object 2 or drag object 3. So now you're going to test to see which object is really closest to. And the other problem that comes up to, that'll come up in the next online, I'll put the program up for that. And then what happens is, the other thing is, when you have 2 objects and you drag them by each other, which one do you see? And if they're both in the same plane, there's a big problem about which one, what happens. So what you do is, you give this one here and this one here different z indexes when you create them. You put them in different, like right here, one object would be z indexes like 1, the other one would be z index 2 or something like that. And normally, the way I like to do it is, this is my strategy, all the objects just sit on z index 1, I put them in there right away. And then when I click on an object and I grab a hold of it, I immediately bring it up to z index 2, because I want it to be in front of everything as I drag it by everything. So I put it in z index 2, and as I drag it by everything, you can see it. And then when you let go of it, it drops back to z index 1. It goes back to its regular plane. That way, what you do is you have the capacity to see where you're putting stuff without having everything erase, and it causes quite a mess if you, like your object's moving, and all of a sudden the object goes behind something. You can't see it anymore. It's not good for any kind of program that you write. So there's a couple of things that happen. When you have more than one object, you have to worry about which one is being dragged, and you also have to worry about whether it's in a z-plane where you can see it or not. The only thing about which one's being dragged the trouble is, you need a variable, you need an up or down variable for this guy, and an up or down variable for that guy, and an up or down variable. You have to have an up or down variable on, drag or not drag for each one of those guys, and that's the one you set. For whatever one you, like this one right here, we only have one variable, drag. We would have drag circle, drag square, two different ones. And then when we hit this thing right here, we say, well, is the distance between drag square such that we hit drag square? Or is the distance from drag circle, and we turn on the drag circle, whichever one we want to do, okay? And the same thing happens with these other functions, the drag function. You make sure you drag the right object and you drag the wrong guy. As you can see, as you increase the number of objects in any program, it complicates things, because the ideas that are actually simple when you only have one object become very weird when you start having two or three. They start getting confounding each other, okay? And that's true across programming, it's true. I mean, simple programs, as you see to do something, when you try to increase the numbers of things that it does it to, well, all of a sudden you got a problem. There are strategies for dealing with it, but I'm not going to do that until near the end of the course. We have other objects. Okay, and that's about it for this thing. What I can do is, I can show you a few of these online, and you can take a look at them and see, ask me any questions you want to ask.